Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Apologies for yesterday, but I was out of the office and then I never got back. Let me start with some macro thoughts. A quote I found on Bloomberg: "In this high-frequency trading world, a minute is an eternity." And then look at this omen of doom. By one measure, S&P volatility is the highest since 1938. The Standard & Poor's 500 index has moved at least 1% in either direction in 25 of 45 trading sessions so far this year. That rate of 56% puts 2016 on track to exceed the 53% experienced during the full year of 2008 and would mark a level not seen since 1938. Just to say how extraordinary the price action has been across multiple markets. And I wrote about it on the 18th of January this year when I said a start to the year that goes back decades. One of the finest books on the markets I've ever read is called Reminiscences of a Stock Operator by Edwin Lefevre. It was written in 1923 and is an account of the life of the securities trader Jesse Livermore. Lefevre says many things in this wonderful book. He, for example, says another lesson I learned early is that there is nothing new in Wall Street. There can't be, because speculation is as old as the hills. Whatever happens in the stock market today has happened before and will happen again. I've never forgotten that. I suppose I really managed to remember when and how it happened. The fact that I remember that way is my way of capitalizing experience. There are many deep truths in that really extraordinary book, but the key phrase is the tape is your telescope. The tape since the start of 2016, and I was writing this in the second week of January, has been unprecedented. The venerable English Times said last week that the markets suffered their worst start to the year since the Great Depression. I, like Lefebvre, have watched the markets for eternity. I've never seen anything like this, and that's saying something, because I can remember 1994 or 1998, and those were big, seismic events. I put up a photograph of the cover for Reminiscences of a Stock Market Operator. Pedro da Costa: markets betting on near zero interest rates for another decade. Just think about that. It's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? I'm reading a book by somebody called Pedro Rosa Mendez, and in one paragraph, in one sentence, he's describing, the man who said, "One day I would like to fly like a bird," and everybody thought he was insane. And subsequently, Pedro is saying, "Look, we have the aeroplane, and he's no longer insane." I liked it. US to counter Putin by sending Europe more tanks and copters. Put up the photograph. And clearly it remains pretty adversarial on balance. I think Russia's broken out of its box that it was pinned in. And, these decoys up the English Channel into the Swedish waters, all kinds of things, and of course Syria. Yemen's weather ceasefire, by the way, is holding, I think, to the chagrin of many. Yemen's Houthis in Saudi for talks on ending war. The visit is the first of its kind since the war began in March last year between Iran-allied Houthi forces and an Arab military coalition led by Saudi Arabia. The visit began on Monday, this is interesting, at the invitation of Saudi authorities, following a week of secret preparatory talks. And that's an interesting point, but it was at the invitation of the Saudis. I think they're finally seeing sense, because it was never going to be a bed of roses. And it is entirely sensible for the KSA to seek to wrap this foray up, because it's just draining resources from them at a time when the oil price is low. And it's really debatable whether the Houthis are cahoots with Iran, or just simply people who are looking for freedom. Kim Jong-Un said this week that the country possessed miniature nuclear warheads and called for his army to prepare preemptive attacks against the US and South Korea. Put up a photograph of Kim Jong-un reacting during a test fire of an anti-tank guided weapon. The photograph released by the Korean Central News Agency in Pyongyang. Then they fired 2 missiles short-range ballistic missiles into the sea on Thursday. Bear in mind, what's inflaming him is the fact that South Korea and the United States are conducting massive war games right up against his border. The North also announced it has scrapped all agreements with the South on commercial exchange projects and would liquidate South Korean assets left behind in its territory. The US says it has dispatched 3 B-2 stealth bombers on a training mission to the Asia-Pacific region. A photograph of a B-52 Stratofortress. Take you back to my article in November 2010. Far away in distant lands lies the Hermit Kingdom. They have all had tiny little hands like the elves and the shoemaker. And then there is a parody account, DPRK News Service. A couple of tweets caught my attention. DPRK, electoral polling systems lauded for 100% predictive accuracy and sound frequent distant methods. And then leader Kim Jong-un promises rocket annihilation to Filipino bandit pirates. Put up a photograph of Aung San Suu Kyi taking part in talks with Myanmar's military leaders in April 2015. This is about the fact that she won the election and now she has the chance to appoint an appointee as essentially president. He looks at the current president Thein Sein, who claims to back democracy, and notes that he is a general who now wears a civilian suit. It says, "Snake can shed skin, is still snake." Le Monde put up a photograph of Aung San Suu Kyi's chauffeur. Said that she has proposed him to the post of president. This is an important point which I was not able to make, and I'll make it again. While the US military regularly conducts operations targeting Al-Qaeda-linked fighters in Somalia, Saturday's raid had a higher tone than all previous US strikes combined. Let's also talk about Donald Trump, who said only one person did well tonight, Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is taking the Republican nomination lock, stock and barrel, and he's going to prove a very strong adversary to Hillary Clinton. And as I said before, reflecting comments which were made to me by a senior banker here in Nairobi, who said that Trump is one terrorist attack away from taking his presidency. Europe's Faustian pact with the Recep Tayyip Erdogan to curtail migration into the EU may carry a devilishly high price tag. Turkey's authoritarian president has proved an unreliable and problematic partner since the Syrian crisis erupted 5 years ago, but the EU's urgent need for his help currently outweighs its deep misgivings. As Faust discovered, the reckoning comes later. Snowden said the FBI says Apple has the exclusive technical means to unlock the phone respectfully. That's bullshit. It was as well. Canada fears photo of Prime Minister with pandas would worsen American refugee crisis. This is tongue-in-cheek, of course. Borowitz. Canada, already bracing for the possible inflow of millions of American refugees in November, might have made matters worse by releasing an unacceptably adorable photo of its Prime Minister hugging 2 baby pandas, Canadians fear. A photo taken at the Toronto Zoo showing Justin Trudeau cuddling with 2 panda cubs was the last thing this country needed. Canada is already staring down the potential crises of millions of Americans pouring over its border later this year. We really have to announce that we have pandas too. And then these 2 photographs caught my attention of jihadists first one is a fellow called Abdel Majid Abdel Bari, who was a rap artist from Maida Vale, West London, before he went to fight in Syria, and this other fellow, Junaid Hussain. Let's go to the currency markets. Euro 109.66. The ECB is meeting today and is expected to result in further easing steps, but I think expectations are very high. 97.41 dollar index. Japanese yen 113.52. Swissy 0.9974. The pound 141.82. The Aussie 0.7464. India rupee 67.165, South Korean won 1206.87. These higher beta currencies, the rupee, the pound, Korean won, the rial 367.97, Egyptian pound 782.86. Discount that one. South African rand 15.2261. They've all been pretty strong in the last few weeks and climbed a little bit. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I think it's headed higher. Not least because if you look at the Treasury 2-year notes, compared to Treasury 2-year notes, yielded the most when compared with German notes of the equivalent maturity in almost a decade, and that's typically very supportive for the dollar. German yields at negative 0.54%. Treasuries offer a premium of 143 basis points. I'll put up a photograph of the European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, say that I think he's pushing on a string. Euro dollar, put up a 3-month chart. Well, it's all going to depend on whether he brings to market, whether he bamboozles the market with a very big easing move, or whether they're disappointed on balance. I think it's more likely, and I agree with this lady, Jennifer Vale, this is probably not a consensus view, but the market is almost pricing in the entire kitchen sink from the ECB. I think it's setting itself up for disappointment. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand cut its official cash rate by 25 basis points to 2.25%. New Zealand currency was down. Last trading, let me check now, where are we? 0.6644, having touched a 1-week low of 0.6618 versus an overnight high of 0.6809. So that was a little bit unexpected because about 4 weeks ago they said they were not going to do anything. Gold, I'll put up a 3-month chart, 1245.55. It's had a tremendous run in 2016. Crude oil, I think, is expensive. 3-month crude oil in the US 39.05. I think a lot of sellers are waiting for it to get to 40. Bombay to hear Service Tax Department plea against Vijay Mallya on Friday. Vijay Mallya is this larger-than-life character who set up, I think it was United Breweries in India, extremely successful business. Kingfisher beer he brought to London into all the curry shops, I remember. Very successful, and then went into the airplane business, airways business, and went horribly wrong, and now DPRK is buying him out. Couple of quotes. I run my own world because I very firmly believe that my destiny, my future is in my hands, and I don't want to blame anybody else for the path I take. I live the way I want to live, and I don't comment on the way that other people live, he said. The only regret is Kingfisher Airlines is not flying today when the oil price is so low. In 1983, after his father's death, Mallya becomes UB Group chairman at age 28. 1999 launches Kingfisher Strong, which changes beer consumption nationally, still the largest selling brand. 2005 launches Kingfisher Airlines, buys Shaw Wallace, gaining whiskey brands such as Royal Challenge, buys Herbertsons, makers of Bagpiper whiskey and Romanoff vodka, buys the Formula One team Spiker, renames it Air Force India, buys British whiskey maker White & Mackay. Diageo in 2013 acquired a 27% stake in USL. Diageo asked Mallya to step down as chairman of the Indian liquor firm, but he refuses in 2015, and now apparently he's on the run. Sub-Saharan Africa, Chinamasa said the public sector wage bill would be slashed from 82% of government spending currently to to 52% of expenditure by 2019. Very tough call. The IMF's head of mission to Zimbabwe, a friend, Domenico Fanizza, responded by saying improving fiscal discipline should be a key government priority for Zimbabwe. Fanizza added that Zimbabwe had met all the IMF's quantitative and structural targets it had set during the visit. When he visited Kenya not long ago, he said ups and downs are physiological in a floating exchange rate. South African all-share up 1.56% this year, fell sharply yesterday 1.46%. Dollar rand 15.2261, the rand is topping. Number of rhinos poached in South Africa. Take a look at this graph, it's just appalling. Came across an article, very powerful, it's quite a long one. Just scroll down on which wrap-ups. Egypt running on empty. A very powerful, hard-hitting article, nearly 3 years since the military coup that brought Sisi to power. Not only are the red lines blurred, but the unconsolidated regime itself is so fuzzily defined that Egyptians doubt it as one coherent entity. The security forces seem to have slipped the leash of the executive branch. As one journalist told me in Cairo, you never know which security branch it is anymore. The only thing that's clear is that Sisi does not control them. It's unpredictable and unsettled. That's what makes everything dangerous. You can't see it coming. Egyptian EGX 30 down 9.04% this year. Growth in Africa's biggest economy and oil exporter slowed to 2.8% last year, the weakest level since 1999, down from 6.2% in 2014. Industrial output contracted 2.2% last year. It's contracting some more. Central bank measures have effectively pegged the naira at 197 to 199. Nigeria's main stock index has fallen 9.8% this year, more than any other bourse in Africa, apart from Zimbabwe's. Forwards prices suggest the naira will drop 31% to 288 in a year, while the black market rate is around 320. Growth for the first quarter of this year could be worse because nothing has happened. Government hasn't yet ramped up spending since we don't have a budget. The performance in this quarter will drag growth down for the rest of the year. It confirms that Buhari's government has been very slow. That's the line. Baba Go Slow is his nickname. Conclusion, 0% GDP this year, in my view. Ghana Stock Exchange is down 1.22%. An elephant returns to Somalia for the first time in 20 years. An elephant marched hundreds of kilometers, briefly crossed into Somalia this month, marking the first time the animal has been seen in the country in 20 years. Conservation said Wednesday. Morgan, a male bull in his 30s, was fitted with a tracking collar in December in Kenya's coastal Tana River Delta, but in mid-February began an unexpected march northwards to Somalia, reaching the border nearly 3 weeks later. His march has excited conservationists who say it shows the elephant remembered ancient roots after decades of absence due to war. He obviously had something in his mind about where he's going, Sinead Douglas Hamilton. Morgan's journey suggests that the Kenya-Somalia border is becoming less dangerous, that if security were to return to southern Somalia, so might the exiled elephants. From Tana River, Morgan trudged 20 kilometers on the first night and then hid in thick forest the following day. Before continuing his march under cover of darkness, he maintained this pattern for the next 18 days. He's adopted this extreme form of survival strategy to traverse one of the most dangerous places for elephants in the African range, said Douglas Hamilton. Uber seeks to lure cabbies in Africa expansion, plans to expand in Tanzania, Uganda, Ghana this year. In the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, which is Uber's fastest growing market in sub-Saharan Africa. What did they say? About 100,000 people open the Uber app once a month. They have gone from nothing to being the biggest taxi firm in Nairobi. Diamond Trust reports first full year profit after tax accelerated 15.615%. Loans and advances to customers net up 28.979%. Customer deposit expense, showing how there was a Darwinian fight for deposits. The second half of the year up 28.276%. Profit before tax up 12.328%. Profit after tax up 15.615%. Earnings per share up 11.405%. Dividend was hiked 4.167% to £2.50, conserving cash. Cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year was 21.91 billion. They're offering a bonus share of 1 for every 10 held. It's a very solid franchise, I'm sure you'll agree. And I think because they didn't have a South Sudan operation, they avoided that. Kenya signs $408 million loan with Japan for a 140 megawatt geothermal plant. Plant known as Olkaria 4 will be built by Kenyan, which is said is expected to begin construction in July, with the plant arriving on the grid by the end of 2018. Have a look at the interview I did with the MD, Albert Mugo, on the occasion of his half-year results. And just have a look at the share price, which trades on a price-earnings ratio of 1.489. And that's because people are worried as to how much the dilution is going to be via the rights issue. But I think it's all priced in KCB. That's trading on a price-earnings ratio of 6.737, which looks cheap to me. Have a look at the interview I did with Joshua after his full-year results. I attended the launch of the KCB 2-Year Jiri program, which is a KCB Foundation program. They're launching it, saying they're going to spend 50 billion shillings over 5 years to create jobs and set aside 10 billion annually in the next 5 years towards this project. Bob Godek was the guest of honor, and he said there is no limit to what you can achieve, quoting President Obama, who said the same thing in the very same place. And then Joshua said, focus on being outstanding. It was a very good function, well organized. This year we're not going to any new market, but instead we want to mine existing subsidiaries to contribute at least 30% of assets and hopefully 15% of profits. That's Dr. James Wangi. It disclosed it had set aside 10 billion shillings to enter the Ethiopian market, but said it would only do so as a fully licensed lender, not through a representative office. KCB and CFC Standard have opened representative offices. Equity share price and full year earnings is there on rich wrap-ups. If you're going to take another look, shilling is at 101.596, which is just close to a 6-month high. Nairobi all share firm 0.12% yesterday, but it remains down 0.53% for the year, and the NSE 20 is down 2.21% for the year, doing better than others. Once again,